So the beginning of this journey of feminine embodiment, what was the reason that drew you to come?
I'd been through some burnout, which had brought up some old, present and new trauma for me. And I knew that I was at a stage where I wanted to really move past it rather than to keep on just coping through it, which I'd been doing for a really long time. And I knew that so much of the trauma had been trapped in my body, and I really wanted to go through a lot of the embodiment and that somatic pathway of really releasing it. Yeah, and I thought that this was a program that would really allow me to, in various different ways, release the trauma, but in a way that I could re-find the opposite of trauma, if that makes sense. Find myself that exists outside of the trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And through the journey that we've been on so far, I mean, we're only like at the most a third through.
Yeah.
Have you found some of those sort of avenues and pathways?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The dancing has really, really helped me. Apart from being linked into the lovely Abigail, also I've felt that every time that we dance, I'm getting more and more comfortable in my body, and then therefore I'm comfortable with myself. And for me, that's that real embodiment where you're actually feeling okay about being me, you know? And the art therapy has been absolutely wonderful. I have never felt such a connected sense of, from my mind through to my hands, and I'm just feeling things coming out, and it's telling a story, and it's really making me make sense of things that have been really hidden for me until now.
Yeah. Which is a big thing, you know, because you've worked in the field of trauma, and you know, as a social worker, you've done a lot already. That's right. Yeah.
And I think you learn in social work to put things up on a shelf and to keep the personal out of your professional life, which in a lot of ways actually, I don't know, I think it actually can encourage the vicarious trauma because you're not connecting, you're disconnecting from your body. Actually, I had an AASW magazine come into me last week, and the acknowledgement page was about embodied social work and how important it is for social workers to start to really feel into what's going on for them, because we go through so many traumatic stories in people's lives, and it's about really reconnecting with who we are and what's going on for us. And I think for a long time I had let that build up in a way that I wasn't acknowledging what was happening, and this is allowing different mediums and showing me how I can connect to what is happening for me, because what's going on in my mind is very different to what's going on in the rest of my body. There's things that I don't allow my mind to really connect with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
The important stuff that's really emotional that I know I might be afraid of gets locked away in a part that I can't access until I do a process like dance, where I can see where I'm afraid and then move through it, or like art, where I can see the story being played out that I didn't realise was even there. Yeah.
So have you found that these embodied pathways, if you like, through the art, through the dance, through the different things that we've done, have you found that rather than being sort of like heavy process work, or, you know, sometimes therapy or therapeutic ways can be quite challenging, have you found then instead there's a different, like a more nurturing quality to it?
Definitely. It's not going over old stories. It's actually, for me, bringing in, I don't know if it's new stories or the old story before the old story, if that makes sense. The story of who I really am when I'm not hurting and when I'm not. I mean, I guess I got to a stage where I was so low, and the vicarious trauma had numbed me so much that I'd forgotten about how I felt in my body before all of that. I had and this is reconnecting me to that without having to go over a story. The story is embodied. You know, it's who I am and how I feel, just in me. And I'm reclaiming. You know, I feel like I'm being able to reclaim a lot of things and turn them around and change the story. And it's not changing the story in a narrative in my mind, it's changing the story in my heart, and it's changing the story in my action. And I'm feeling again, I'm feeling really good things.
Yeah, yeah.
And connecting
yeah.
with other women, that's been a really
Yeah.
big part of this for me. There's something embodied, I think, also about feeling okay to be in a space with other women.
Yeah.
And it's something I've been really afraid of for a really long
Yeah.
time. And this is my first women's circle.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I'm really amazed at how confident I feel in myself, hearing the story from so many other women that are saying similar things. And yeah, it's really making me feel normal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And this was something, you know, just to speak a few words to, this was something that I've witnessed in you from the beginning. You know, you shared that this is a really vulnerable space and that, you know, it can often bring out quite a lot of pain to be in these type of gatherings and feeling separate within the space, within a group space.
Yes.
And you know, and it feels like over the weeks that we've been connecting, I've just been feeling your light burning and shining so brightly. And the beauty just really...
I'm not afraid anymore. I was really afraid of speaking up or not speaking up, or what I said, and worrying about if I say something that I'll go over it and then ruminate that and get anxiety afterwards. But the more I get to know the women and the more that I feel close to them, the more I'm opening up, and it's just really lovely. It's a really, really, really nurture, and that's where a lot of the nurturing comes from. I feel like the embodied processes are one thing, but the actual having the presence of all the women, that's where the nurturing really takes place, where you're being held and accepted and listened to. That's very important. And the ability to share and release some of the shame that we have by being alone in our journeys. Yes. To suddenly actually having women witness us. Yes. And not only witness us, but like completely accept and love us when we are being witnessed instead of being judged, which may happen in other situations. It's made a massive difference in my life in general. I feel like I'm just... more connected to what I want. I'm more able... I mean, I've talked about boundaries and I've helped people enact boundaries in their own lives, but actually being able to hold them has been difficult for me, whereas now I'm feeling just a little bit more connected to who I am and what I want, and it's enabling me to really hold a boundary with ease. So and I'm not sure what that's about, but it's things are changing in me. I'm feeling more whole. Wow. I'm not feeling like I'm in pieces, which is how I sort of felt before I came. There was a piece here and there was a piece there, and the more I come to these circles and the more work that we do around awareness of who I am, of how we are as women, it's putting all those pieces back together again, and I'm feeling like a whole person. Whether that's the trauma that makes me feel like I was in pieces, I'm not sure, but it's that fragmentation that I think we can often feel in a society that doesn't recognise all the parts that get lost, that leave us feeling alone, as you pointed out. Being in a circle of women and being able to talk about these things together has just really, it's really brought me back together again. The voice that didn't have a voice before. And just lastly, what would you say to any women, and you know, about whether to do this course or not to do this course? How? I guess I would say, look, if you're looking for a way to connect with yourself, with other women, and to understand some really deep-rooted practices about who you are as a person and as a woman and in this world, then this is definitely a course that will bring you home to those places. It will open up and expand your mind to realise, for one, how big you are in this world, but also how small you are in this world. And I think sometimes both of those perspectives need to be are important in the way that we look at ourselves. And I think, if you want to heal, this is a place of healing. That's for sure. And you just reminded me before closing that, you know, if you've journeyed through the experience of feeling afraid and of expression and not necessarily feeling safe to express, and now, you know, the other end where your expression is becoming like a joy and a liberation, and you know, what would you say to women who are really scared of the idea of being expressive? And come along. There's no pressure to do anything that you don't want to do. You'll be held and supported whichever way you show up, and eventually over time, I think you will feel that you can express yourself exactly to the limits that works for you, and I think it's about pushing those personal boundaries when you really want to be more open.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's okay to not want to be open, but if you want to expand, and if you think, I just want to be comfortable speaking to a room full of women that I don't know but that I really admire, then this is a place to learn how to do that and to feel the freedom. And it might take a while, but you'll get there eventually. I think that's what I would say to myself. And it took a lot of bravery for me to come. I was hesitant because I was scared of judgment, and I was scared that I wouldn't fit in, and I was scared that I would be left and on the outer. And you know what? I felt like that the first couple of weeks because that was my story.
Yes.
But over time, things have, and the more I shared my vulnerability about that, the more I've been able to then walk through it. And I feel, and even going through a bit of a hard time this week, sharing that in our online night, getting that off I couldn't wait to do that. I planned to do it before we got on there, and so it's something that it helps me walk through my life every day, and I know it's something that's also building a bigger picture for when I'm going back out into the world and helping other people.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Julianne, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for listening. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.